Assalamu alaikum, Radio Ramadan from London time, me Ali Kamara, the Muslim poet. Today, I have a special guest on the show today. He is a student of Medina University, and he studied in Medina for a term of 8 years, and he graduated from the Dawah of Usamah at Medina University. His name is Abu Usamah. For those of you who don't know Abu Usamah, he's originally from the United States. He was born in New Jersey. But he grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and he spent most of his life in Dawah, and he now resides in Birmingham and Liverpool, and he's an imam at 2 masjids in the UK here in London town. And it's an honor to have him on the show today. Abu Usamah, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, brother Ali Kamara.
Kamara with a K.
But I did that intentionally because you called me Abu Usamah. Usamah.
Oh, Usamah, oh, subhanallah.
Okay, my man. And you said that I was a special guest. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate the love. You're a special host as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's an honor to have you on the show today, because when we was in Jahiliyyah, we used to listen to your tapes and stuff like that when you used to be the imam at Brixton and stuff like that. So we used to listen to your tapes back in the day when we was trying to find our way, when we was trying to find our path. And it's because of people like yourself, you know, that we're on this path, because, you know, mashallah, Allah's blessed you to study for 8 years, to come and give the youth this knowledge, to come and give us this knowledge that we need. Do you get me? So you've been chosen to pass this dawah onto us, you know, and hopefully we can receive it, or I can receive it, and we can pass it down to the generation to come. Because like the Prophet ﷺ said, this is meant to be the best generation. It doesn't look like it, but there is definitely hope. I mean, when I was younger, I wasn't listening to Dawah like what the youth are listening to today. I know they've got TikTok and all this stuff and Snapchat and blah, 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 but they're interested in the deen. They have love for it. So there is definitely hope, Sheikh. There is definitely a lot of hope.
Let me say, Adi, because there's a lot to unpack in what you just said. I appreciate your acknowledgement. Those days were the good old days. And to hear people appreciate the role that you played in trying to help them on their journey, it's a nice feeling, because we're living opposite to what you're saying.
Right.
I want to clarify this. Prophet Muhammad says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that his generation was the best generation, and then the one that came after that, and then the one that came after that. As for this generation right now, he said in the hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is not a year except that the year that comes after it is worse than the one that preceded it. So technically speaking, the millennials in this generation are living in the worst generation and the worst time ever, which should help us to understand it's not easy being young during this time. It's not easy being divorced during this time. It's not easy being a Muslim even during this time. So I just want to take it back to your original statement about you being, you know, one of the brothers who listened to me and you got on the deen. As a result of that, it feels good, because what's the norm right now with this generation is a lot of hatred. There's a lot of haterade out there. The music, the culture, these millennials, it's really, you know, we have to recognize it's tough being their age right now. It's tough. There's a lot of toxic stuff out there. And one of those things is these brothers and sisters feel like everyone has the right to be a mufti, and everyone has the right to be heard. And although everyone has a voice, still we have demarcations in the religion, and we have to respect that. So having younger brothers respect those who went before you or before them, it's not common, because there are a lot of people out there, you'd be surprised, who come out shooting darts and knives, and for those who preceded them. So I appreciate that, my man.
But I think that is what we have to take it back to, because if we look at, say, for instance, like yourself and other ulama, like who have passed and not with us, let's just say Ghazali, not that I'm a follower of Ghazali, let's just say Ghazali, let's just say Sheikh Aidul Khani. If we look at these types of ulama, you know, these are the kind of people that we want to learn from. And these are the kind of people that we want to, you know, adhere to, so to speak, you know. So I don't think there's anything wrong by us saying, hey, you know, we used to listen to Sheikh Abu Usamah, and, you know, we took from him and he helped us and blah. That's what we should be doing, you know, rather than saying, I want to follow the latest pop star who's only going to be around for a few years, who's not even really going to teach you anything, You know, you're just going to like his style and his car, what he's got, and blah, blah, blah. But he's not really teaching you anything which is going to go trickle down through generations. In fact, it's something that's not really beneficial, if you know what I mean. And that's what
you're right on point. You're right on point and exactamundo with what you're saying, because the Prophet himself said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, whoever does not think the people, he has effectively not thanked Allah. So I may not agree, for an example, with everything Imam Al-Ghazali says, Rahmatullahi alayhi. Mm-hmm. But he is a giant and a heavyweight that preceded me in the religion. And there's a verse of the Qur'an in Surah Al-Hashr that Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned, "O our Lord, do not put hatred and animosity in our hearts towards those people who preceded us." So I stand on the shoulders of brothers like Siraj Wahaj, although I don't agree with everything he says, and he does. I stand on the shoulders of Sheikh Bilal Phillips. I don't agree with everything that he says. Yeah. But it's just that common sense of being able to appreciate people who went before you. I know, coming from the African American experience, my moms, my pops, the older people, they taught us to respect people who are older than us.
100%.
Now you go to Brixton, for an example, with these millennials. These people will tell you, get the F out of my face in a minute, and you may have that guy or that girl by 40, 50 years. So it's not that respect. Not all of them, but because of the music, because of all these things that are going on, there's a lot of antisocial behavior, especially people of color, African Americans, Afro-Caribbean people. We lost a lot of the basic common sense that our non-Muslim relatives taught us, Africans as well. Real quickly, brother, I don't know if you are aware of this situation that happened where a single mother made it to America, the land of milk and honey, from the Gambia. Right, yeah. Had 3 sons growing up without the father, and they were in East Harlem, New York.
Oh, man.
And
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, then the kid, he wasn't working. He was getting high, hanging out, just off the meat hinges. And his moms was just telling him, you got to get a job. You got to do better. He got so upset, he pulled the gun out and he shot in the head and splattered her noodles all over the wall. May Allah have mercy on it. So you a brother, as we were just talking about where you come from and where I come from, when did Africans start killing their mothers? When did that happen?
A'udhu billah. I can't even...
We don't say all of the kids are like that, but I think that there's a great big disconnect with just what the previous generation deserves in the way of respect towards those who are upcoming. And the Sunnah of Allah, it's the Sunnah of Allah, is that it should be like a relay race. Yeah. You pass the baton. The young elders, they pass the baton to the youngsters. But right now, for many reasons, there's a disconnect. And we got to get back to that origin. And Islam helps us to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say that it would be great if we could get back to that, back to that way of, passing the baton on, because it's heartbreaking to know that kind of story, that a child would take his own mother's life. And there was another story in America as well. I mean, it was a family member. It was my stepmother's ex-husband got shot by the son, killed the guy. He took a gun out and killed him. All the guy was saying to him was, you need to get a job and you need to try and work, You want to be a bad boy on the street. This man brought you into his home. He's fed you. He's clothed you. He's paid the light bill. He's helped you to go to school. And you want to go on the street and sell whatever you want to sell. And he's asked you, when are you going to get a job? You've got upset. I don't know if he's high or whatever. And you took out the gun and you shot him.
It's crazy, brother. It's crazy. I didn't hear that one.
How do you do that to your own parent? How?
That's right.
How?
Brother. And based upon that, Ali, I mean, I don't think I was expecting to go this route, but we just rapping, chopping it up, and kicking it. Yeah. My children, like my wife, mashallah, I have a wife who is a very good mother, committed mother. And she cooks, cleans. She wants her kids to be on the deen.
Yeah, mashallah.
You have children who feel entitled. It's like white privilege. I ain't down with no white privilege. I'm not a second-class citizen. Don't look at me like that. Don't treat me like that. But as it relates to the younger generation, a lot of our children feel that they are entitled, entitlement, that the mother has to cook, has to serve the food, has to pick up the dishes, has to wash the dishes, and has to clean the clothes. and has to iron and drop them off in school and pick them up. And they don't have to say, Jazakillahu khairi ya ummi. And they don't have to watch it. I don't play that. I'm old school.
I'm old school as well.
You're going to pull your weight. And then if you're in a situation where you're married to a woman who you have stepchildren, for an example, it becomes even more sensitive, where you start to feel, hey, this entitlement is bugged out. All we're asking you kids to do is we're asking you to get good grades in school and to be respectful and be clean, do your chores, and just pull your weight. But our kids have this thing of entitlement. And then when you come to the table, you say, I don't play that. I'm old school. Not old school where I'm going to beat you down like the African-American fathers do, but old school where I ain't playing that.
Old school where you want order, you want organization. That's it. And you want them to play their role and chip in, so to speak, like how the English would say it. You want them to chip in and play their part.
Carry your weight.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they are entitled. They are entitled that we take care of them, that we safeguard them, that we protect them, provide for them, nourish them. That's our job. I remember growing up, I wasn't very close to my dad. I got close to my pops when I became a Muslim later on. We're very close now.
Right.
And I'm always giving him dowries with my mother. I always tell him, look, Dad, if you become a Muslim, I'll help you get another wife. Maybe that's the thing that'll get him. So he has this banter with my mother about that. But we're very close right now. Yeah. But when I was young, I wasn't close to him because he had that old-fashioned way. So I have to say, and acknowledging, we do have to have rahmah on these kids and try to understand these kids, because it's tough being a child right now.
Well, it's tough.
It doesn't negate the responsibility that they have to have some level of intelligence. I mean, I see some of these kids. I talked to one kid. He was telling me he wanted to be a gangster. I told him, brother, you know, you're hustling backwards. You're dumb as it relates to being a hustler. You are dumb. But he's a follower, and trying to balance between understanding him and giving them tough love. It's tough. So I make a dua right now while I'm fasting.
I mean,
helps all of the parents, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, to deal with our kids, man, our teenagers and those who are younger, because it's a tough time to be balanced. And that's the Sirat al-Mustaqim that we read in Surah Al-Fatiha. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. Make us balance in all of our affairs. Ameen.
So Sheikh, I know that you graduated from Medina University in 1986. How did you convert to Islam? How did that happen?
I became a Muslim in 1986, and then I went to Medina not long after that.
Right.
And I became a Muslim because I was in the special university where I was matriculating, the special university where the school of hard knocks. When you make a bad move, they send you to the special university.
I see.
While I was at that special university, I decided, hey, I have some time to start thinking about my future and where I'm going. Because prior to that, I was just super fly to a lie. You know, the streets.
Yeah.
The streets don't love you, man. I remember there was a movie called Paid in Full about Paul and those guys.
Yeah.
And in one of those scenes, the guy who played Alpo, I think Pfeiffer is his name or something like that. He was trying to get
Pfeiffer.
Trying to get money for the dude who actually really kidnapped his own nephew. And the guy who had got shot, Ace Boogie, who had got shot, his boy was trying to get. He was telling, man, these streets ain't got no love for you. These streets ain't got no love for you. He said, I'm not breathing right. I'm not walking right. But Pfeiffer said, and he played that role. He said, I love these streets. I love them. He had the eye of the tiger, as we say in America, that thing. So I came to the realization, man, these streets is whacked out. And when I was in that special university, I had an opportunity to breathe. I was waiting to excel. I was just waiting to excel. So when I had that time on my hand, I said, man, I'm gonna get myself together. So I went to listen to the imam that was in the special university. And he turned out to be a guy who didn't know much about Islam, but he knew what to talk about. And he started talking about things that resonated with me. I embraced Islam, and I didn't look back since that time, alhamdulillah. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean that I'm flying with the malaika. Doesn't mean that I don't have insecurities, fears, and things like that. I'm like everybody else. Make mistakes. I got my good and my positive, but I have no doubt about La ilaha illallah. And I have no doubt that this is the path that is the greatest favor that Allah has bestowed upon me.
Ameen, mashallah, may Allah bless you. I know that you studied under some sheikhs in Medina University when you was there. I know you had the honor to study under Muhammad al-Jani, Sheikh Muhammad al-Jami, and Sheikh Salah al-Fawzan. Now, these youth don't know about who these scholars are, and I know that you even studied for 2 years in the summertime under Sheikh bin Baz and Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. And tell us about that. How was that, studying under those big scholars at that specific time for yourself? Because they are the ones who passing on the knowledge to yourself, and you're going to pass it on to these youth that are here today, inshallah.
I think this is connected to what we started and started to show off with, and that is respecting people who are preceded you. Because in Islam, the way our tradition is that you shouldn't go directly into books and read those books and you learn like that. You have to read on your own, but we all need a mentor, whether it's your father, your uncle, your older brother. You need a mentor there to help guide you. There's a fabricated hadith, but its meaning is true. Yeah. It said like being young, the shabab is like being crazy. Young people, you know, you're not the same person that you were 25 years ago. You're not that same dude today.
No.
So being able to have a scholar, a bona fide scholar of the Sunnah, was a tremendous favor from Allah. There's a great scholar of hadith. I'm par with Imam al-Bukhari, Imam Muslim, he's like that. His name is Abu Bakr Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani. Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani. He's nitroglycerin, the man, 100,000 grand.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's a man. He said, from the greatest ni'mah, favors that Allah could bestow upon a young person or an ajami, a non-Arab. He doesn't have the language.
Yeah.
So a young person who's easily influenced and a non-Arab, he doesn't have the language, is to guide them to an imam of the Sunnah. Because if he finds the imam of the Sunnah, he's not going to go to Syria to try to blow people up and blow himself up. He's not going to allow himself to be, you know, some crazy person who's wasting his time, the time of other people, getting on an airplane with underwear to blow a bomb. You know, kid, the word how much is not in his father's vocabulary, Ali.
Yeah.
He's studying in this country from Nigeria. How much is not in the vocabulary? The father got cheddar. The father is able to purchase for him a one-room property in the most expensive part of London. But he's young and he meets people who are talking, jihad, blah, blah, blah. And then the kid finds himself on an airplane and now he is in prison and he won't get out.
For life,
had he been guided to an imam of the Sunnah, that imam would have benefited him. So that's what happened to me. Going to Medina after al-Islam being the greatest ni'mah that Allah bestowed upon me. The second greatest one was allowing me to go to Medina, where I was in an environment that was conducive to growing and developing and growing and blossoming as a flower, not crazy, but balanced. That doesn't mean I'm Saudi Arabian. No, it's the environment of the university. So those scholars that I met, you know, I remember walking in the Prophet's Masjid as I was getting stronger and stronger in the language, first year, second year. I was able now to go and sit in the Prophet's Masjid. And what I did was I saw a man by the name of Umar Falata. And he was this big, gigantic, huge Nigerian man. His hand was so big and strong that if you put your hand in it, he could crush your bone. Take a match and light it on his hand. And he used to talk in the road of the masjid. I gravitated to him because he was black. I gravitated towards him. And once I sat with him, I started learning the language and got close to him. And then he sent me to Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami, who helped me to really get on the Dawah al-Salafi and the Sunnah. And he helped me with that. So all of the scholars that you just mentioned, without getting into all of the long story of the detail, they help to do the exact thing that we were talking about. You need a mentor. If anybody is trying to do this on their own, just grow and develop, you're going to grow and you're going to be warped like a flower that grows away from the sun. The flower that grows, and there are weeds that are around it, and it's going to strangle you. It's going to kill you. So I thank Allah for that opportunity. And that's the role you and I have to continue to play for people who are younger than us.
Inshallah, definitely, definitely. In fact, I remember the brothers that used to go to, some of them used to go to Yemen, and they used to go and study with people like Sheikh Muqbil, rahimallah, when Damaj was around back in the day, and they used to come back, mashallah, and you know, they studied over there for a year, 2 years, and after they'd come back, I could see the benefit they actually had on them. Do you know what I mean? And even some of them used to go to Egypt, and I was like, why are these guys going to a different country for, man? Why are you not staying in London? And then it dawned on me later on, that's what they went abroad for, because being in that environment and sitting down with these sheikhs, you know, who give you their time, you know, to sit there to learn a book or to learn a whole sort of Baqarah or something like that. It takes a while, but it's actually a discipline. So now I actually know the respect that is given to the Arabic language, you know, after learning a bit of it myself, and my teacher is Egyptian. And the level of respect that they have from sitting with them and learning for hours and hours and hours, it refines you and it makes you to respect the book more and the religion a lot more. Do you know what I mean? So I know why now the people, they respect these ulama and these sheikhs, not because they think they're esteemed like pop stars. It's because the time that they take to sit with you and teach you. Do you know what I mean? It takes a lot.
Part of it. That's part of it, Ali K. But there's another very critical part of it that I have to mention here. Perhaps any brothers who are listening will take heed of this. And that is, everything you said was true, and we do that. But brothers have to remember, when you go over there, wherever you go, and you get the language and you cop the knowledge, you have to be sure that that knowledge you learned is transferable. That when you come back and you relay that to your people in the way that they understand. I am not into Saudi centrism. So if you learn in Saudi Arabia, don't come and superimpose upon me Saudi Arabia. Don't come and superimpose upon me Yemen. Don't superimpose upon me Egypt. So I remember when I became a Muslim, Ali G, a lot of the African-American brothers who were with Jamaat al-Tabligh back in the day, I was young, 22, when I saw them. Some of them used to speak English, and they would do that Indian bobblehead thing. And they would speak broken English like Indians, and they African-Americans. And they would say, brother, would you like to go get some brother? I'm like, man, what are you talking to me like that for? And I used to hate it, because as a young kid going to church, one of the things that I hated about the African-American church was the way the preacher would talk to us. The preacher is pandering to the women in the church, the emotions of the people. He's not teaching knowledge. So the African-American preacher, as you've seen, I'm sure, coming to America, different movies depict us. The preacher will say, and Jesus, bro, what are you talking to us like that for? We don't talk like that normally. So what are you talking to us like that for? So a lot of times, brothers on the deen, and we want to take knowledge from other countries, and we come back and we're not making that knowledge transferable and, you know, connected to our host, our brothers and sisters, where we come from. So don't lose your identity. That's what I'm trying to say.
100%. I mean, I said to somebody, I mean, I wear all kinds of different kinds of clothes, by the way. I would wear the Saudi, I would wear the Nigerian stuff, I would wear whatever, right? But I said to somebody one day, and I think it's quite possible, I don't think it's possible. I said, would you see a guy from Yemen wearing, you know, the Agbada, the whole Nigerian thing, what they wear? So I said, you got to know your culture, and you got to know where you come from. I'm an African, and I know that I'm a British man. I'm British-born African, and I was born here. And it's just like the Prophet ﷺ. When he made the hijrah, he went through Ethiopia, all right, to the Christian king, or the companions went to Ethiopia to the Christian king. He was African. Najashi was African. So you've got to know your culture. And I think there was a time in the Prophet ﷺ's time where they were celebrating the Eid, and there were some Abyssinians outside, and Aisha wanted to see, and I think she went over his shoulder, and you know, to see the celebrations of the Eid. And he said to her, everybody has culture. So everybody.
I'm sorry, IDK. Yeah, I think that's just a really important point before we sign off and we get off of this broadcast. Anybody who's watching it, Islam is not against your culture. Islam is against the culture when the culture goes against the religion. Culture goes against the religion.
Yeah.
So for Somalis, for Eritreans, for Ethiopians, that circumcision, the khitan that they give, the FGM, Islam is against that. For an example, as an African American, I come into the religion and part of my culture is tattoos and this and that. Islam is against that.
100%.
There's a verse of the Qur'an where Allah Azza wa Jalla told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Khudh al-'afwa wa'mur bil-'urf wa'a'rid 'an al-jahilin." Ya Muhammad, deal with the people with the universal, deal with people with pardon and afu. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbu afu, to pardon. That's the dua of Laylatul Qadr. Allahumma innaka afuwun. So the ayah said, khudh al-afu. Pardon people. They're going to make mistakes. Don't be rough and tough. Forgive. Be gentle. Overlook. And then the ayah said, and then work by the urf, work by your culture, universal principles, and turn away from the ignorant people. So this ayah, this verse is used by scholars to show people's culture can make something haram, halal, mustahab, makruh, depending on what's going on, with conditions. So our culture, how you dress, how you marry, how you divorce, those things, you hold on to them as long as they don't go against the religion. Because when they go against the religion, now you have to get rid of that thing, because Islam came, and as the hadith said, al-Islam is uppermost and nothing goes over al-Islam. And this is a problem that we have. African-American people, Afro-Caribbean, this whole thing about slavery has messed us up. I'm not a fan, I was never a fan of, what's his name, Martin Luther King. I was a fan to this day of Malcolm X. I wasn't into that Mahatma Gandhi stuff. If your enemy slap you, give me the chief, take your, I wasn't into that. But I learned to respect Martin Luther King. But anyway, I saw an interview. They asked Martin Luther King, why is it that African Americans, you know, any group can come to America and they can excel in America and pass African Americans? Why is that? And he said something I don't think was a crutch or a cop-out. He said, the effect and impact on slavery on my people was tremendous. I believe that. I don't believe we should use that as a crutch, but it is real. It is real. So we have a unique situation, and I would do my people a disservice and do my kids and myself a disservice. My forefathers who died in that transatlantic, they were thrown overboard, and I would be doing a disservice if thinking as a Muslim, I got a call to being Saudi Arabian, I have to call to being Yemen, and I have to call to being white for them that matter. We are Americans, we're British, we're not second-class citizens, but we have our culture behind us, our religion behind us, and we're not apologizing about that to anyone.
You're right, Usamah. I think that the slavery had a big effect on African Americans in America and also in the UK as well, you know. It had a massive effect on them. Then the trauma of it has had a massive effect, and sometimes that can trickle down to generations. I mean, I'm from Sierra Leone, but I've got a lot of Jamaican friends and, you know, Caribbean friends that I've grown up with that don't have, you know, African surnames. They'll have a surname like Charles or Jason or a Scottish name, you know, or a Welsh name and stuff like that. So their great-great-grandfather could have been white and this, that, the other. So sometimes that can have an effect on them. They might not even know as an individual, you know. When you touch on someone like Bob Marley, his grandfather was white. Captain Norval Marley was a white man. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people don't know Bob Marley's father was a white man, you know. So it has a big effect. I mean, there's a program that's on BBC Two at the moment with Samuel L. Jackson and the historian Afua Hirsch, where they're going through the transatlantic slave trade, but they're going like they've never been before. They're going deep to where the ships fell to the bottom of the sea, and they're bringing up all the history of the Atlantic slave trade, and they've put it all together and compiled it into a series, which is absolutely amazing, this series. So if anybody wants to watch that, it would be great to watch it. For those of you just tuned in, I'm here on Radio Ramadan, 80.7, 87.9 on your FM dial with me, the Kamara Muslim Park. We've got Abu Usamah al-Dhahabi in the studio today. We're talking about Ramadan. We're talking about the virtues of Islam. We're talking about the Qur'an. We're talking about his life in Medina University and the current state of the Dawah here in the UK and abroad and the United States. So Abu Usamah, tell us about the importance of Ramadan, the virtues of Ramadan.
First of all, at the top of the list is Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Al-Islam. The Prophet said, peace and blessings be upon him, Al-Islam has been built upon 5 pillars. La ilaha illallah, there's no God worthy of worship but Allah, Muhammad is his messenger, the salat, praying, zakat, giving the poor dues, and fasting in this blessed month of Ramadan, and performing Hajj. So we know the pillar is that thing that the foundation is built on and predicated upon. If the pillar is missing or is weak, then by default, what's built upon it is going to be weak. So it's a foundation of a person's Islam. Also, Ramadan is the 9th month in which the Muslims are going to fast for 29, 30 days from the time that the sun comes up to the time that it sets. And you're going to do that unless you have a real reason not to do it. Women who are pregnant, people who are sick, people who are traveling, they don't have to do it. Young people don't have to do it. Very old people don't have to do it. And it's the month that the Qur'an was revealed. So this is the month that the Qur'an was revealed. And also in the Islamic theology, as Muslims should know, not only was the Qur'an revealed in this month, and the Qur'an being the speech of Allah, because God Almighty, who is he? Is he what the Sikhs are worshiping? Is he what the Hindus are worshiping? Is he a white man, as I used to believe, a white man with blue eyes and blonde hair, sitting on a chair, dangling his feet? So I'm worshiping him, looking for a pie in the sky that I'm gonna eat after I die, while he's ripping my black ass, questions right here. Is that God? No. We believe that Allah, the creator of everything, he has speech, and he revealed the Quran in the month of Ramadan. And he also revealed, we believe, the Bible that was given to Jesus, and the Torah that was given to Moses, and the Psalms that were given to Dawah, David, all in the month of Ramadan. So this right now is the time where the Muslims are on their best behavior. But our real struggle is, if you get through Ramadan, being persistent and consistent with that, and keeping the ball rolling after Ramadan. So those are some of the preeminent aspects of the importance of Ramadan. You are not a real Muslim unless you're practicing Ramadan. Now, you know, Ali K, that in America, the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, they're not Muslims. They have a branch here. They're not Muslims. I hope they're watching so they can call in and we can discuss that. They're not Muslims. And one of the reasons why they're not Muslims is you don't find them fasting. They fast Ramadan.
They don't fast in Ramadan?
Now they fast in their own way, and they fast when they want to fast. Some of them now are fasting, but as part of the ethos and as part of the edit of what they believe, they don't believe they have to fast in the month of Ramadan. So
just clarify one thing to me. Sorry to cut in. Is it true that they believe that a man called Farad Muhammad is actually God?
Yeah, they believe that God Almighty Allah came down in the person of Farad Muhammad, and he chose Elijah Muhammad to be a prophet and a messenger. Listen, this is important because you mentioned that thing with Samuel Jackson. I tried to watch that, but I didn't find it that it didn't float my boat. That particular one didn't float my boat. But speaking about this, Ali K, there is a guy, his name is Abdurrahman Muhammad on Netflix. 11 months ago, he put a tremendously beneficial program on Netflix called Who Killed Malcolm X?
Yeah, people talking about that. Yeah.
So that cat who put that together, he's a historian. He right now did his first talk. All you have to do is put his name in. Who Killed Malcolm X? YouTube, Abdurrahman Muhammad, and you'll find it. He's now breaking down what the Nation of Islam was all about. To his credit, he points out positives and negatives. And I like that because the Nation of Islam wasn't all bad. It had mostly bad, but it had some positive things as well. For an example, African Americans in America up until that point, we used to be known as Negroes, the Negroes. That was the official terminology used about us. When Malcolm X came and Elijah Muhammad came, we got coined our own phrase. Elijah started calling them Black people. We became Black people, and it became part of the Black identity. Now, some people can also criticize that if they want, but I'd rather the thing be in my own hand and I have self-determination as opposed to other people naming me and identifying me and so forth and so on. But I would like people to go back and to check that. If you didn't see the Netflix documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X? Our Prince, one of the greatest leaders, African-American leaders that is known historically, may Allah rahmah upon him. That's what we believe in. Allah is his Hasib. And check out the guy who put it together, Abdurrahman Muhammad. Check him out in YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to check that out. 100%, 100%. Sheikh, you talked about in one of your talks that I listened to the other day. You talked about the thieves in Ramadan. Tell us about that.
Yeah, one of my students came up with an idea of why don't we do something where we could just give advice about the reoccurring challenges of Ramadan, where you can get your actions stolen like a thief. No one likes a thief. No one likes a thief. If we had a relative that came to our house and he was staying in our house and we had a crackhead sister, a crackhead brother, one of the youngsters in our home stole from the guests. Oh, that's a big Eid.
Yeah.
Or if you were known as being a thief in the community, people look down on you. That's a universal reality. So There are thieves that steal from your Ramadan. They come and they steal from your Ramadan. Certain things that people do where you won't get the optimum out of Ramadan because these things are going on. For an example, wasting time watching sports. I'm like everybody else. I like music. I like sports, but I have to make jihad against music. I grew up with music, R&B. It's in my DNA. I remember a long time ago, that cat, his name is something Jordan. This is how we do it, that cat. If that song came on, I'll start tapping my feet and nodding my head. 50 Cent's joint in the club. Dun, dun, if that came on. So I'm not from the angels. Yeah. But if you listen to music, that's going to take you away from La ilaha illallah. That's a weapon of a shaitan. If you listen to music in Ramadan, you're watching TV in Ramadan, you're on the internet in Ramadan, and you're not being supervised, you're not doing it with a minhaj, then your Ramadan will wind up being a lot of wasted time because that thief came in and he robbed you. Like the woman, for an example, the woman, her period, that time of the month, is a thief. Because she's not praying and she's not fasting, she may just say, okay, it's Hawaii, it's vacation time. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to give sadaqah. I'm not going to stay on the kids. I'm not going to read about the religion. No, so just because you are out of commission right now, so to speak, doesn't mean that Ramadan is not good for you. When our mother Aisha, her period came performing Hajj, she was crying. Prophet Muhammad said, why are you crying? She said, my period is here. Meaning she can't make tawaf, she can't make salah. He said, do everything that the pilgrim does, but don't make salah. Don't go around a corner, but do the other stuff. Yeah. So that's the idea behind that program, behind that series. Those things that people do in the month of Ramadan that will jam you up. Because listen, Akhi Ali K, what we don't want to happen is you fast all day, starving like Marvin, thirsty like Percy, you standing up making salat, you're doing this, doing that, and in reality, all your deeds are going to somewhere else or somebody else. Because you robbed them, because you didn't pay your wife, who's your ex, you didn't give her dowry yet, you did things and you stole people's money, you was backbited. So the prophet said, Yom Qiyamah, people will oppress other people, their good deeds will be distributed to the people who they oppressed. And if all of their good deeds are exhausted before the people get their rights, the bad deeds of those people will be thrown on that person. So those are thieves of Ramadan, not going and asking people, hey, forgive me, not restoring people's rights. So that's the thinking behind that series, my man.
MashaAllah, thank you for that, Sheikh. Sheikh, I was having a conversation with some people the other day, and they were saying to me that they believe that their fasting is accepted, even though they don't pray. In the month, they don't pray at all. And then when Ramadan comes, they fast, okay? But they don't pray during Ramadan or after Ramadan. Can you clarify? I said to them, I don't believe, from what I've read, that your fasting is accepted, because I believe, from what I've read from the ulama, that your fasting is only accepted if you are somebody that prays consistently. And I said this to them, and I said this to my own daughter as well. Can you clarify that for us?
Well, first of all, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said that this community of Muslims, we're going to follow the Jews and the Christians in everything that they did. So when they raised up Jesus as the Son of God, Uzair as the Son of God, we are going to say Prophet Muhammad knows the unseen. He didn't die. He's omnipresent. Ali ibn Abi Talib is Allah reincarnate. the sheikh is on par with Allah, we do the same thing. So one of the things that the Jews and the Christians do is they give wishful thinking. In one ayah of the Qur'an, Allah said, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ وَالنَّصَارَى نَحْنُ أَبْنَاءُ اللَّهِ وَأَحِبَّاؤُهُ. The Jews and the Christians say, we are the sons of Allah and Allah loves us. He loves us more than everybody else. The Yahud said, لَن نَدْخُلُ النَّارِ إِلَّا أَيَّامٍ مَعْدُودَةٍ. The Yahud said, if we go to the hellfire, we'll only be there for a few days. But Allah loves us so much, we're coming out. So you have Muslims who are like that. They make mere claims. وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا أَمَانِيَّ. From them are those people, they don't know the book. They just have wishful thinking. So a Muslim says, if I just say La ilaha illallah, I'm good. I don't have to wear hijab. I can smoke crack, I can drink, I can wild out. I just say La ilaha illallah because there are ayat and hadith. If you say La ilaha illallah, you're going to go to Jannah. But La ilaha illallah is a key to Jannah. And every key has teeth. And the keys and the teeth of the key of La ilaha illallah is the actions. Salah, zakat, Sawm. So I'm here to say, Wallahi, Billahi, Tallahi. If a person doesn't pray and he fasts, his fast is not being accepted at all. You know, we have to be careful about emphatically stating, he's in Jannah, he's in Jannah. I can't say Imam al-Bukhari is in Jannah. I hope he is, but I can't say that. Imam Ahmed Abu Hanif is in Jannah. I hope they are, but that's with Allah. So in this case right here, I'll emphatically state, if you're not praying, your fast is not going to be accepted. And that's because Prophet Muhammad said, for an example, brother, anyone who misses Salat al-Asr, his deeds will be destroyed. That's from the virtue. What about 5 prayers? But if you don't pray Asr, it will destroy your deeds. So the prayer after, in terms of actions, the prayer is the most important action that a Muslim can do. And if he's praying, it's going to prevent him from doing other crazy things. So if a person is, as the Prophet said, it may be that a person fasts and he gets nothing from his fast except he makes himself hungry and thirsty. Allah doesn't have any need for a person who's fasting and he's not praying. So you have to pray and fast.
Oh, mashallah, thank you for that, Sheikh. You hear that, brothers and sisters? You know, the importance, that Sheikh Abu Usamah said, the importance of prayer and fasting. The two go together, and you know, you should do the two together. So if you're not doing it, you know, try and get on that and try and do it, inshallah, for the next Ramadan. If you're not doing it, you know, try and realize that's something that you really need to do, inshallah. Sheikh, tell us the importance of the flesh of the scholars and why it's poisonous.
Well, that famous statement that the flesh of the scholars is poisonous, it doesn't come from the Qur'an, it doesn't come from the Sunnah. It comes from the statement of a great scholar in Islam, and his name is Ibn Asakir. Ibn Asakir. He was a scholar of hadith, and he wrote a book called The History of Damascus. And in that book, he brings a lot of different information about the virtues of Syria and who went in Syria, who was born in Syria, who was taught in Syria. It's a book of hadith, a book of a history book, and also a book of people's biographies. So he brought in that book that the flesh of the scholar is poisonous. First of all, the flesh of any Muslim is poisonous. There's a verse in the Qur'an in Surah Al-Hujurat where Allah told the people, don't call each other by offensive names, Surah Al-Hujurat. And Allah told us in the Qur'an that you shouldn't backbite each other. And he said, backbiting is like eating the flesh of your brother. أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُم مَّن يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Would any of you like to eat the flesh of his brother while he's dead? So nobody is going to eat a dead corpse. A dead corpse is haram in Islam. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ. What's the ayat again?
Hujurat.
لا حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل لغير الله به. Made haram for you to eat is dead carrion, is khinzir, is food, meat that got blood in it. And Allah mentioned other things. So there's an authentic hadith about the impermissibility of chess. I used to love chess.
Yeah.
Imam al-Ajurri, a scholar of the Sunnah, he said in that book that he wrote, he brought the hadith, Prophet Muhammad said, playing chess is like putting your hand in the flesh of a pig and his blood and pus in it. So that optic, that vision make you say, ugh, who's gonna do that? So by talking about your brother and making ghiba about him, backbiting him, it's like eating his flesh when it's dead. Who in his right mind is going to do that? So the flesh of every Muslim is haram, but the scholar is even worse. And that's because the Prophet said in authentic hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-ulama warathatul anbiya. The scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. So their position is that they're taking and assuming the role, so to speak, of the prophets and the messengers, especially when they're good. So they're the last people who you should be backbiting, like your mother, like your father. So a sin can be bad, but if you do that sin in Mecca and Medina, it's worse. If you do that sin in the sacred month, it's worse. If you do it in Ramadan, it's worse. There's a hadith that says to steal from 10 houses is bad, but to steal from 10 houses is less in degree than stealing from the house of your neighbor. To make zina with 10 women is bad. But to make zina with your neighbor's wife is worse. It's not saying that zina is okay for 10 people and stealing is, no, it's saying it's worse to steal from your neighbor. It's worse to steal from your mother and your father. It's worse to make ghiba of the scholar than it is from the regular Muslim. That's the meaning of it.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, I thank you for that. I think that's one of the 7. Is that one of the 7 deadly sins, to sleep with your neighbor's wife? That is one of them, isn't it?
No. Prophet said, stay away from the 7 major sins in this particular hadith. Stay away from shirk, from magic, from riba, usury. Stay away from running away from the battlefield in jihad, being a punk and a coward and running away, unless it's a strategy of war. And stay away from saying that an innocent woman or man is guilty of committing zina. So he mentioned 7 in that hadith, but there are other hadith that is more than 7. And we know that zina is a major sin because you get the had, and in the hadith we just mentioned, sinning against your, making zina against your neighbor's woman, daughter, sister is worse because you're supposed to have each other's back. Terrible.
Yeah, absolutely terrible. Sheikh, concluding, what advice can you give to the youth today here in the UK in terms of Islam? What advice would you give them going forward? Because as we discussed before, it's a very difficult time for them. And even some of the adults as well, they need this advice as well, to be honest with you, because even some of the adults are, do you know what I mean, not with the program. What advice can you give the youth and the adults going forward in terms of Islam and Qur'an and Sunnah? Because it's an absolute blessing for us to have this deen. And some people say, we'll just take the Qur'an and not the Sunnah. But my understanding is you take the Qur'an and the Sunnah. They go together.
I'll focus in my answer towards the shabab, the youth today, and hopefully one day in the future we'll try to come back and tackle the other stuff.
Inshallah.
I would say to our shabab, and at the top of the list, it's important for them to not get fooled by shaitan into believing they're more than their reality. One of the worst sicknesses is to have ghurur. Ghurur is when you're over-impressed with yourself. There's one thing for a person to be, sure of himself and to have confidence, but there's another thing to have ghurur. Prophet Muhammad said, ثلاثة من المهلكات. 3 things will destroy you. And one of them, he said, إعجاب المرء بنفسه, a person being impressed with himself. So the hip hop music is about me, I'm this, I'm that. No, man, you have to calm down and realize you're young. You have a lot of growing and developing to do. So what we want our shabab to do is we want them to be productive. It is not going to help them being extreme and radical. Yes, We're marginalized. We're seeing Muslims being oppressed. What happened in East Jerusalem the other day doesn't make us happy. On one hand, someone's making a van from London Bridge. So that's good. But while that's going on, they are doing what they're doing to our brothers in East Jerusalem. So our brothers want to do something, our boys and our girls. So they go over to Syria. I say, going over to Syria is not going to help you. It's not going to help your family. It's not going to help our community. It ain't going to help the Syrians. So calm down and fall back. Know your position and play your position. And stay balanced in the religion. And the way you stay balanced, and we ask Allah every day, Ihdina sirata mustaqim. Stay in the middle, not too far to the right, not too far to the left. Don't love too far to the right, don't love too far to the left. Don't laugh too much, don't never laugh. Be balanced. Middle ground. So our Shabab have to understand the religion that Allah sent down is a religion that systemically is telling people there has to be a mentor. You have to learn. You have to crawl before you walk. So my advice to them is to get and to plug in to people who know what they're talking about, and they already did that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do that. So that's my advice to them.
Sheikh, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I think we have to wrap it up. You've been on radio, Ramadan Radio with me, Ali Kamara, Muslim Poet, 87.9 on your FM dial. It's been amazing. We could talk for hours. There's so much to talk about in terms of the Deen of Islam. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I know we're going to do a part 2. I'm definitely going to be lining up a part 2. I'm going to pop down to Birmingham or Liverpool to see you down there. I like the Scousers, by the way. I think the Scousers are lovely people, and the Birmingham people. But it's an honor for us to have you. And you are, for me, in my eyes, you're a gem in the community. And Allah's blessed you, blessed us in terms of having you here today and having you for this generation, inshallah. And hopefully this knowledge can get passed on to these youth and we can get back to where we need to go on, like we said before, in terms of passing the baton. Enjoy the rest of your Ramadan. Have a lovely iftar tonight with your family. And if I don't speak to you before the Eid Mubarak, and I'll keep you in my du'as, inshallah. And we keep the people of Palestine in our du'as and what they're going through today, inshallah. And remember them in your du'as, inshallah. And Allah will not forsake us, inshallah. Sheikh Abu Usamah, it's been an absolute pleasure, my brother.
Keep making it do what it got to do. And may Allah bless your efforts, man, and what you're doing. Take care of yourself, all right?
Ameen. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, my man. Peace out.
tó bá fẹ́ jókòó ò lè jáde mọ́ ìjọba bẹ́ẹ̀ bàtà rẹ tó ń tí ń dún yẹn.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you doing? You all right?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. What will we be talking about today?